have some Rugby Europe stuff to attend to, because it resumed. The action resumed last week with Georgia welcoming newcomers Netherlands up into the relative big boy leagues, having just won a tight game against Belgium in the playoff. That game finished 48-15 in favour of Georgia out in Telavi. They completed their Grand Slam. It was in emphatic fashion. 48 points is a nice amount to score. 15 is not a bad amount to score for Netherlands in their first game against perennial champions.
They got to try towards the end of the first half to make it 10-8.
Yeah.
It was definitely game on at that point, and you could hear the crowd going... It was like a 100-metre try on the break. The winger went darting and the Georgians were like muttering.
Yeah.
But the Georgians did turn it on in the second half and actually ran a really good game. And as we were alluding to earlier, really have expanded their game. Winger on the board twice, fullback on the board for a hat-trick. 5 tries between those two. That's just...
good. That's not something you would have said about Georgia even 2 years ago. So that's palpable signs of progress for both, to be honest. It's too much power from the Georgian bench for the poor Netherlands to cope with, which is understandable. They were able to turn the screw a little bit and lean on their experience in the second half and kind of pull away. And sure, now the Georgians themselves are travelling ready to take on South Africa, as we were talking about. So that's interesting for them. But for the Netherlands, I think they'll take solace with the fact that they were in the mix at halftime, that they grabbed a nice try. They scored 2 tries against the best team in that competition, and now they have a week off this week, but the week after they face Portugal, which will be a different test, but it'll be one that they'll hopefully be ready for now, having better day.
On initial evidence, I certainly think they're worth their place in the competition.
They might overtake Spain quick enough, you know.
Well,
you never know.
In the main, we do have a big game coming up now in Rugby Europe this week.
But also congrats to Georgia again, I suppose. Yes. We always forget that it is, Grand Slam champions Georgia, housekeeping.
They did a celebration, they lifted their trophy and all is well in Tbilisi ahead of their 2-match tour with the world champs. But there is a huge game in the context of the World Cup qualifying coming up now this week between Spain and Russia.
Yeah.
Big game for both sides.
It's going to be Saturday again. Everything's happening Saturday this week, but July 3rd. Estadio El Pantado in Alicante, I should say. It is a huge game. It's a huge game for both, but neither team has really had it their own way. We were following the Rugby Europe Championship in its first stanza, and Spain really have taken the cake as the worst looking team in it so far, without a doubt. With the discipline costing them, with some crazy red cards you'd never see the like of, which they were so loose. I'm remembering the one where it was a crossfield kick and their man just absolutely clattered the potential receiver, and the ball still had another couple of seconds of hang time before it even reached the turf. So early and ridiculous was the hit. I don't know quite what was going on in the messaging, but they've only managed to accrue 2 table points for 3 games played, which is pretty poor. Russia, however, have managed to accrue, 3 table points, but
four.
Was it 4?
They have a win,
and they have a win, but they've only played 2 games.
That's right.
So Russia in better standing objectively.
One of which against Georgia. They have a win that they got against Romania,
and then a losing bonus against Georgia.
No, just a win.
No, just one win. 4 points.
No win. Yeah, for 1 win for 4 points.
Yeah.
But what you would associate with Russia, they are physical. They are defensively sound. They're disciplined. They'll
kick points. They'll punish your ill discipline. That's certainly what they did for Romania in that game. They were kicking very good kicks from all angles. And if they're the team that'll punish ill discipline, Spain will definitely need to rein that in. Whatever they were showing, whatever they were drinking in the first half of this year, they need to put it away, get back on the water, and cool the jets, because they were absolutely near psychotic on the pitch sometimes.
Yeah, and there's concern around Spain. Heading into this, they were full of bravado and talking about putting on a show and being following the Japan model of being a quick, exciting team, and they certainly had the talent to do that. But they looked so utterly rudderless and so lacking in coaching, and they really didn't play with any speed, and they were just outplayed by Portugal earlier in the year. Portugal showed them up for actually doing the hard work and being together as a squad
and being quick and accurate and ambitious and all of that stuff.
Things aren't as right in the Spain squad. They've had issues in the build up to this. They've had a number of players actually who are based in France, so important players like Ordas at 10, who's not in there. Gibuin, Usaraga, Rue, the 9, really good player. Minguilon, Mali, a number of first team players, about a third of the starting 15 really. They're not returning. They've been playing in France and they're just not showing up. They're not able to. They've had issues with acquiring players at this time of the year before, after the French season. But even for a game like this, with everything on the line, if they lose it, their campaign is pretty much dead.
Yeah.
For the World Cup, they can't acquire these players, and I just don't know if Spanish rugby is in a healthy place at all. I mean, if you'd asked me a year ago, I would have said every chance that they qualify for the World Cup. But now they're in dire straits and their backs are firmly to the walls. So they need to deliver. They need to be quick. Russia, the one thing I'd say about Russia is that they score slow. They will be physical. They're difficult to play against,
but they'll
punish your errors. If you're indisciplined and you're all over the place, they'll kick their kicks and they'll make fewer errors than you, and that'll be fine. But they don't score tries.
They have
Spain
very little
scored
speed.
Tries.
They do have very little speed. That's what I recall from watching Russia, is that they're pretty well disciplined,
and
pretty well organised.
Their defence is good.
Their defence is good. Their physicality is pretty good. But they are slow. Fundamentally not quick as a rugby team. And so they struggle to get around teams. They struggle to get through teams. But they probably have shown a bit more nous and a bit more savvy, and certainly a lot more calm than we've seen from Spain thus far in this comp. But despite the fact that they're only sitting low, they're both in 4th and 5th at the table currently, with only the Netherlands just behind them.
Russia just have an L against Georgia. That's their only L.
That's the factor.
That's all to play for.
If they win, and in fact, whoever wins this game, because it's a 2-year, as much as it's the Rugby Europe Championship this year, sure, Georgia have already won that. It's 2 years as qualifying for the Rugby World Cup, so it's early days in that. And whoever wins this will be eyeballing Portugal, who are up on, I think, 9 points through 4 games and ahead of them as well. There's it's fairly bunched, because Romania aren't that much further ahead of them either. Romania are only, where are they on the table? They're I think they're second currently on. Are they on 9
Romania,
or 10 points?
They are second indeed on 9 points.
9 points.
Portugal have
only 5. I should say
games.
That was it.
But Portugal have only played 3 games, including they've obviously had that terrible L against Romania, but they had a great win against Spain when their backs were to the wall, and their other game was against Georgia. So Portugal still with the Netherlands to play, still with Russia to play, so still a lot on the line for Portugal as well. They're well in the mix, but it'll likely all be decided by next year. But for me, Spain are on the ropes, and if Russia lose this game with games against Portugal to come, and that's a problem for Russia as well. So I definitely think this is just
two teams that desperately need to win to keep their World Cup hopes alive,
and both want to go. Spain missed out the last time. Russia, no matter what the sport, always
want to be at the World Cup or Olympics or anything like that. By hook or by crook, they want to get in. With all that intrigue, it's a very interesting game.
And a stylistic matchup as well. Spain need to go back to their roots and play with tempo. They need to get outside the Russians and cause them problems. They're not going to win the physical battle. As much as they have bulked up, and it's probably the one area where they've improved, is that they don't get bullied. They need to expand on that. Not get bullied, but also move the ball.
Also play some rugby,
and take the loss of Rouet and Ordas, who are their best players, as a positive, even though it isn't. And actually get some younger guys in and just tell them to play ball, with freedom, and try to attack and win the game. Be true to their roots and
some damn discipline, because they're tough to, objectively you kind of like Spain, and historically you kind of root for them, but my God, every time I watch them this year,
they're a disgrace. They're borderline disgrace.
Indeed, you're going, come on Russia, which I wouldn't normally say against Spain, but it's like if they are producing the showings they were showing earlier in this campaign, they'll deserve what they get, which will be nothing, which has been the story thus far. So hopefully we see them at least cut out some of the absolutely ridiculous stuff, and we see a good game between two sides that are desperate to get to the World Cup. That is the carrot for all of these sides, is that World Cup, and this is a pivotal game in the search for it. No question. That game taking place this Saturday, as we say. Do you have a thought on who's going to win it? I suspect Russia, but I don't know. Spain have the home advantage. If we can see Spain having, there's been a gap, so everything kind of changes. They've been on ice, both of these teams, for a wee while. So hopefully, what I really hope is that we see a bit more of a disciplined, calm Spanish side. And if we do, I think
in Russia, the summer weather at home.
In the summer weather, objectively, it should be a game that Spain should be targeting to try and run those Russians around. So. My suspicion is that if we see a Spain that are as rudderless and as disjointed as we have been, that Russia will put them under pressure and they'll crack with a yellow card or something. I might have gone for Spain had Rouet and Ordas been there, but given they're not,
It's such an unknown. Maybe the guys who come in are great and they can move the ball around and run a game well. Like Spain are not shy of footballers, and that's what you need at 9 and 10. That's the optimistic hope. But no, my head is telling me that this better coached, more disciplined Russia side, without setting the world alight, will just do enough and get them in the killer moments and as you say, exploit the ill discipline, exploit them in the pack, and just defend them and not let them in and suffocate them and win the game that way.
Yeah, that's certainly where my head is at with that one, but open to being proved wrong, and good to see the Rugby Europe Championship back underway. And
nice to see a big game with big stakes. And if you're into delving in the weeds of who might be at the World Cup, that's rugbyeurope.eu. You can stick it on and
they live stream the games. You can watch them for free live. Yes.
Thank you very much for watching the Overlap Rugby podcast. If you enjoyed that video, be sure to give it a like, share with your friends, and leave a comment down below as well. We really do want to hear your thoughts.